Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling crazy, questioning your own memory, or apologizing for something you're not even sure you did wrong? What if I told you manipulators don't win because they're smarter than you? They win because they exploit 7 specific psychological blind spots Carl Jung identified that most people don't even know they have. The guilt trip that makes you abandon your boundaries. The accusation that's actually their confession. The crisis that appears exactly when you try to prioritize yourself. These aren't personality conflicts. They're calculated psychological tactics designed to keep you trapped. And if you don't learn to recognize these patterns, you'll keep losing yourself in every interaction with them. Get ready to learn the 7 genius ways Jung discovered to see through manipulation and neutralize it permanently. The first way to outsmart a manipulator is recognizing when they're confessing through accusation, and once you see this, their primary weapon breaks. Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything about manipulation. Manipulators accuse you of exactly what they're doing. Jung called this shadow projection. The parts of themselves they can't accept get projected onto you. The person cheating accuses you of cheating. The liar calls you dishonest. The controller says you're controlling. The manipulator claims you're manipulating them. This isn't random. It's psychological defense. Jung understood that when someone can't face their own darkness, they must see it somewhere else. And the easiest target is the person closest to them. But here's what most people miss about projection. It's not just about deflection. It's about making you carry their shame so they don't have to feel it. When they accuse you of being selfish, they're offloading their own selfishness onto you. When they call you cold, they're getting rid of their own emotional unavailability. When they say you're too sensitive, they're projecting their own lack of emotional regulation. If you've ever felt confused because their accusations don't match reality, this is why. You're experiencing their shadow, not your own behavior. Jung's genius move: stop defending, start observing. When someone accuses you of something that doesn't fit, ask yourself, is this actually true about them? The cheater who accuses you of cheating is confessing. The liar who calls you dishonest is telling on themselves. The projection is the confession. Once you see this pattern, manipulation attempts become transparent. They're not describing you, they're describing themselves. And the moment you stop absorbing their projections, their primary weapon fails. But projection is just the surface. The second way goes deeper, into the mask they wear to hook you in the first place. Write in the comments the accusation someone made about you that was actually true about them. Way 2 reveals how manipulators study you, then build a fake personality designed to exploit exactly what you value. Learn to spot the mask before you fall for the person. Jung identified that everyone wears a persona, a social mask, but manipulators weaponize theirs. They craft a persona specifically designed to exploit your values. And here's the genius part. They study you first. You value loyalty? They'll perform loyalty while being disloyal. You value honesty? They'll claim radical honesty while lying. You value kindness? They'll appear gentle while being cruel. The persona isn't who they are, it's bait. And most people mistake the mask for the person. Jung taught that you spot the real person not in what they say, but in what they do when they think you're not looking. The mask slips in small moments. How they treat service workers. How they talk about people who aren't present. How they react when they don't get their way. Watch for the gap between persona and behavior. That gap is where the truth lives. Manipulators maintain the persona through performance. They'll cry at the right moments, show vulnerability strategically, admit to small flaws to hide bigger ones. If you've ever felt like someone was too good to be true, then gradually revealed themselves to be exactly that. Your intuition caught the persona before your conscious mind did. Jung's defense. Trust patterns over performances. What someone does repeatedly is who they are. What they say is just the mask. You've learned to see their projection and their mask. Now, Way 3 reveals why the same tactics work on you over and over, and how to close that vulnerability. This third way shows you exactly which manipulation tactics work on you specifically, and how to defend the weak point manipulators keep exploiting. Stay with this, because what comes next reveals why you keep falling for the same manipulation tactics. Jung developed psychological types, different ways people process reality, and manipulators exploit your specific type. If you're a feeling type, they use guilt and emotional manipulation. If you're a thinking type, they use logic traps and gaslighting. If you're intuitive, they create confusion. If you're sensory, they overwhelm you with details. They're not guessing. They're testing which buttons work on you. The guilt trip that works on a feeling type does nothing to a thinking type. The logical argument that traps a thinking type bounces off a feeling type. Jung's insight. Manipulators are psychological profilers. They identify your type, then exploit its shadow. Here's what most psychology misses. Your greatest strength is also your greatest vulnerability when weaponized. Feeling types excel at empathy. Manipulators exploit this with manufactured crises and emotional hostage. Thinking types excel at logic. Manipulators exploit this with circular arguments and moving goalposts. Intuitive types see patterns. Manipulators exploit this by creating false patterns and conspiracy-like narratives. Sensing types focus on concrete details. Manipulators exploit this by drowning them in irrelevant information. If you've noticed the same manipulation tactic works on you repeatedly, it's because they've identified your type and optimized for it. Jung's countermove. Develop your inferior function. Feeling types need to strengthen logic. Thinking types need to develop emotional discernment. The more balanced your functions, the fewer entry points for manipulation. Now that you know your vulnerability, Way 4 shows how manipulators try to split you against yourself, and the one move that makes you unsplittable. Comment below. Are you a feeling type, thinking type, intuitive type, or sensing type? Way 4 reveals how manipulators fragment you into controllable pieces, and Jung's technique to stay whole under psychological attack. You've come this far understanding their tactics. Now here's how they try to fragment you. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming psychologically whole, is what manipulators fear most, because a whole person can't be controlled. So they attack your wholeness. They try to split you into parts they can manage. They praise one version of you while criticizing another. I love when you're agreeable, but you're so difficult when you have opinions. They create internal conflict, make you question your own consistency, split your identity into good parts they approve and bad parts they punish. Jung saw this clearly. Manipulators need you fragmented, because fragments are easier to control than wholeness. Here's what most people never realize. Every time you abandon one part of yourself to please them, you give them more power. You suppress your anger to keep peace. Now they know anger controls you. You hide your needs to seem low maintenance. Now they know neediness is your shame trigger. You silence your intuition to avoid conflict. Now they know your gut feeling is negotiable. If you've ever felt like you became a different person around someone, they were fragmenting you, making you choose between authentic parts of yourself. Jung's resistance refused to split. When they praise the agreeable you and punish the opinionated you, bring both. And here's what happens when you stay integrated. They lose the ability to play parts of you against each other. The manipulator who says, "I love you when you're happy, but you're too much when you're sad," is trying to make you perform happiness and suppress sadness. The individuated response, "I'm both. If you can't handle the full range, you can't handle me." Wholeness is the ultimate defense. Because manipulation requires you to betray parts of yourself, and an integrated person won't fragment for anyone's comfort. You've learned to stay whole. Now Way 5 reveals their most effective weapon, the manufactured crisis that appears exactly when you try to reclaim power. The fifth way exposes how manipulators create perfectly timed emergencies to trap you in caretaker mode, and the one response that breaks this pattern permanently. Jung understood that manipulators create manufactured crises to keep you trapped, and they time these crises with surgical precision. You set a boundary, suddenly they're in crisis. You start prioritizing yourself, suddenly they can't function without you. You try to leave, suddenly they're suicidal, sick, or falling apart. Jung called this the wounded healer dynamic. They position themselves as perpetually wounded, you as the eternal healer. But here's the pattern. The crisis always appears when you try to reclaim your power. And here's what most people miss. The crisis is real. The timing is strategic. They are genuinely upset. They did create a genuine problem, but they chose when to bring it to you and what to ask from you. If you've noticed their emergencies always happen right after you set a boundary, your intuition is correct. The pattern isn't coincidence. Jung's response: differentiate between feeling empathy and feeling responsible. You can acknowledge their pain without abandoning your boundary. You can care without fixing. You can witness without rescuing. I hear you're struggling. I'm still not available for that. And watch what happens. Real crisis continues even without your rescue. Manufactured crisis escalates when ignored, then suddenly resolves. The manipulator learns. Crisis no longer controls you, and they'll either adapt or leave. Emotional hostage breaks when you hold boundaries, but Way 6 reveals an even more insidious tactic, the one that makes you doubt reality itself. Share in the comments. What crisis appeared right after you set a boundary? Way 6 shows how manipulators don't just lie, they negotiate reality itself. Learn Jung's method to anchor your perception when someone tries to rewrite what happened. Jung studied how people construct reality, and he discovered that reality isn't objective, it's negotiated between consciousnesses. Manipulators know this, so they don't just lie. They negotiate reality itself. Gaslighting isn't about getting caught in a lie, it's about making you doubt your perception of truth. They don't say, "I didn't do that." They say, "You're remembering wrong, you're too sensitive, you're imagining things." The goal isn't to convince you of their version. The goal is to make you doubt your version. Jung understood that when you can't trust your own perception, you become dependent on others to tell you what's real. And here's what makes gaslighting so effective. They don't deny reality completely. They introduce just enough doubt. I said that, but not the way you're making it sound. That happened, but you're taking it out of context. I did that, but you're being dramatic about it. They're not rewriting history. They're editing it, and the edited version is just plausible enough that you second-guess yourself. If you've ever left a conversation feeling confused about what actually happened, that's gaslighting working. Jung's defense: document reality. Not to prove to them, to prove to yourself. Write down what happened, when it happened, what was said. Not for evidence, for anchor. Because when they say, "I never said that," and you have it written, you're not defending yourself to them. You're defending your reality to yourself. The gaslighter loses power the moment you stop needing them to validate your experience. Your perception is data. Their denial doesn't erase it. You've learned 6 tactical defenses, but Way 7 is different. It's the one shift that makes all manipulation irrelevant. The 7th and final way doesn't just defend against manipulation. It makes you unmanipulatable. This is Jung's ultimate teaching, and once you achieve this, no tactic can touch you. You've learned 6 tactics. This final one makes all of them irrelevant. Jung's ultimate teaching wasn't about defending against manipulation. It was about becoming unmanipulatable. Psychological sovereignty. The state where external manipulation can't reach you because your center is internal, not external. Manipulators need you to outsource your sense of reality, worth, and truth to them. Sovereignty means you've internalized all 3. Here's what most psychology misses about sovereignty. It's not built by getting stronger. It's built by becoming whole. When you know your worth, approval can't manipulate you. When you trust your perception, gaslighting can't destabilize you. When you're integrated, they can't split you against yourself. Sovereignty doesn't mean you become cold. It means you become clear. You can care about someone without needing them to validate you. You can love someone without making them your reality check. You can be compassionate without being controllable. Jung observed that sovereign people share one trait. They'd rather lose connection than lose themselves. If that trade-off scares you, the wound is still operating, because the wound says, "I'll die without connection." Sovereignty says, "I'll die without myself." And here's what changes when you claim sovereignty. The manipulator's tactics don't hurt less. They land differently. The guilt trip triggers awareness, not guilt. The projection reveals them, not you. The gaslighting confirms your reality instead of destroying it, because Jung understood something most miss. Manipulation only works on the parts of you that haven't been integrated. Every shame trigger is an unhealed wound. Every guilt button is a place you abandoned yourself. Every fear they exploit is a shadow you haven't faced. Sovereignty isn't armor. It's wholeness. And wholeness has no entry points for manipulation because there are no fragments to exploit. The manipulator who once controlled you with guilt can't find the guilt anymore. The one who weaponized your need for approval hits a wall. The one who made you question reality runs into someone who trusts their own perception more than external validation. You don't outsmart manipulators by being more clever. You transcend manipulation by becoming whole. These 7 ways aren't tricks to win games. They're Jung's map back to yourself. Shadow projection reveals them. Persona recognition protects you. Type awareness closes vulnerabilities. Individuation keeps you whole. Emotional boundaries stop hostage. Reality anchoring defeats gaslighting. Sovereignty makes you untouchable. The manipulator in your life doesn't need to change. You do. And when you do, they either adapt to your wholeness or reveal they were never capable of real connection. Write in the comments which of these 7 ways you need most right now. Your reality is valid. Your boundaries are necessary. Your wholeness is not negotiable.